There are 5 main ways you can tell if your plant is root bound and in need of potting up into a bigger pot, and I'm going to go over each of them in this video so that you can identify if your plant is root bound so that your plants remain healthy. Also, stay tuned till the end because I have a bonus tip that will help you easily pot up your plant in a way that might surprise you. Yellowing leaves is one of the first indicators for so many houseplant problems, which can be confusing for beginner plant owners. This is one of the telltale signs that your plant is root bound. Your plant lives in its pot with some potting soil from which it can draw water and take up nutrients. As the plant gets older and bigger, so does its roots, which means the roots fill out the pot and the amount of soil in the pot decreases. Now, where this soil goes is a bit of a mystery to me, but if you have a severely root bound plant, you will notice that the roots practically take up all the space in the pot. The reason, therefore, that the plant develops yellow leaves is a lack of nutrients. There's no longer enough soil in the pot to provide for the plant, so the yellowing leaves is a sign of decay in the plant. The plant can't take up nutrients through its roots to the leaves. Some plants are quicker to show this than others. My peace lily and my green syngonium, for example, often turn yellow at the first sign of being root bound, so I need to up-pot these fairly regularly. One of the first signs that your plant is root bound will be that it seems thirstier than normal. You will find that you are having to water it more frequently. This is for the same reason as the yellowing issue. There's not enough soil in the pot to hold onto and provide enough water for the plant's roots. Instead, the plant is sat in a pot with very little soil, and when we water the plant, it uses that water straight away. Normally, the soil will become saturated and slowly water the plant's roots over time. This sign normally occurs well before the yellowing leaf sign, so if your plant seems thirstier than normal, check its roots and the pot is living in. Begonia plants are particularly susceptible to this. My begonia in my dining room needed watering more and more often until I changed its pot. And now, since I changed the pot, I'm not having to water it as much. Plants rely on their roots to absorb nutrients from the soil that they can then use to push out new growth in the spring and summer. When there is a lack of soil and therefore nutrients, the plant's growth will slow. So plants need nitrogen in the soil for strong growth, and a root-bound plant will have a lack of nitrogen, so will not be able to grow as strong. My Monstera deliciosa in my bedroom upstairs has been in the same little pot for at least 6 or 7 years and is desperately root-bound, and it only sends out 2 or 3 new leaves each year, so it's really slow growing. To solve this, I will need to put it up into a bigger pot. If your plant is severely root bound and it lives in a plastic nursery pot, then you'll probably notice that the pot is starting to bulge. This is the roots of the pot effectively bursting out of the pot it is living in. If you've waited for your plant to get to this point, then you have waited too long and you should repot your plant as soon as possible. It's probably severely root bound. Pick up your plant and lightly feel around the plastic plant pot. If the pot feels super compact and you can clearly feel roots, then the plant is obviously root bound. Now I have this currently with one of my smaller Monstera deliciosas. There are too many roots in the pot and it is starting to burst out of the pot. The signs that I've described are not mutually exclusive. It's likely that your plant is thirstier than normal, has some yellowing leaves and is not growing vigorously. If this is the case, then the final check is to take the plant out of the pot and examine the roots. If you're a beginner houseplant owner, then it can be tricky to know whether your plant needs to be up-potted or not. But I would always err on the side of caution. It doesn't do any harm to the plant to repot the plant early when it might not be in desperate need of a repot. Essentially here you're looking to see if the plant's roots are circling around the crown of the plant. This is the main concern because this will lead to choking of the plant, which can lead to eventual plant death. The crown is the main part of the plant that goes into the soil, so it does need to be protected. If there are too many roots in the pot and they are too long, then they have nowhere to go, so they continue to circle around the pot and around the plant until eventually it smothers the plant out and the plant develops more and more yellow leaves. You can expect to see some roots at the bottom of the pot, so don't panic if this is the case with your plant. Plants should be up-potted when the roots far outweigh the amount of soil in the pot. My bonus tip for this video is that your houseplant's roots aren't as fragile or sensitive as you might think. In fact, you can even prune the roots of your plant much like you prune the leaves and stem of the plant. It can be tempting to treat your plant very carefully and not disrupt the roots when we pot in the plant, but we can be much more aggressive than you might think. It's really important to untangle the roots as much as possible before putting it into a new pot to stop that circling motion. You want to go around the root ball of the plant and untangle the roots so that they continue to grow in a downwards direction. If there are clumps that are too thick and can't be untangled, then don't be scared to cut away those clumps. Plants are very resilient and will bounce back from being cut back. Also, don't be scared to cut off unruly aerial roots either. I regularly cut off the aerial roots to my Monstera plants and there's no impact on the plants whatsoever. Not being able to cut off the aerial roots to our plants is a common misconception among beginner plant owners, much like the fact that plants purify the air in our homes. And in this video here, I explain why you are being lied to and plants don't do anything to purify the air in our homes. Click on the link and I'll see you there.